What's up, guys? Today we're going to be going over the Mountaintop. My first of a few Brave Weapon reviews I want to put out. I'm going to be back to full-time uploading in the Final Shape and beyond. And I know there's going to be a few of these weapons I'll be using a lot in Final Shape with different weapon loadouts and builds. So I want to put out a quick review, just going over the role I think you should be getting. So starting off with the nerdy stuff, looking at the launch option and the magazine option, the two in the left will be quick launch and hard launch. A lot of people will usually use. Then we have spike and implosion, and I think a lot of people are using the wrong combination. It's changed over the years. So jumping in with all the 4 different combination of those 4 perks, the gist of the story is you want hard launch for sure over quick launch. That is the most important thing. Having spike or implosion is basically the same. I mean, it's way lower than 1% increase between those two. But between quick launch and hard launch, it is roughly 4 to like 4.5% more. So that is definitely worth getting. You know, it is more damage, but you just need hard launch with one of the 2 other options and you're good to go. And in the left column, there's really only one perk I think is worth getting, which will be auto loading holster. Because the way that this GL is kind of meant for taking out higher health targets, this perk will be the best for general play, pulling it out when you need it, and for DPS with swap combos. And the reason I don't really think any of the other perks are really worth your time is because there's obviously better ad clear GLs. For example, all the waveframes with chain reaction. So perks like ambitious, demolitionist, stuff like that, I think don't really fit into this weapon's core playstyle. Because if you want a GL for ad clear, definitely just stick with the waveframes. But in the right column, if we look at damage of this weapon, normally hits for 66.8 thousand. Then with Frenzy of Whirlpool, it'll go up to 76.8. Look at the DPS of this weapon, just seeing if it is good for pure DPS. So shooting off 3, then 6 for like a kind of like a 1 mag and 2 mag situation. And looking at that, takes just under 8 seconds, which means the DPS over 3 was 71.3 and over 6, 58.6, which aren't that bad. We'll compare it to a few things here in a second. And the total damage output of this weapon is actually very high for a special, holding 22 base, and that is just under 1.7 million, which is very good for a legendary special. And since I haven't uploaded a video in quite some time, just putting this in a ballpark with a 90 RPM Whirlpool Sniper, looking at the damage on Carl and total reserves, the DPS is going to be a lot higher at 96.9 thousand, then 72.5, and under 1.1 million total damage. So the Mountaintop is definitely king for total damage. And looking at a slug with Whirlpool also, just to complete this comparison, you can see that even the slug out DPSs the Mountaintop by quite a bit, and the total damage output is right there with the sniper. So overall, Mountaintop isn't great for pure DPS, just shooting it over and over again. And I wasn't even comparing it to some like the best options in the game. If you had a 140 RPM, it'd be even better. So where I think the Mountaintop fits in for DPS is more so with auto loading and comboing it in with different swaps. For example, a heavy GL, edge transit with bait and switch and envious, or even a rocket. So should you use Whirlpool or Frenzy? I think in almost every situation, Frenzy is to be better. They're both 15%, and Frenzy will offer the reload buff also. You can make a case that Whirlpool will always be there. You might not be able to proc Frenzy in different situations, but I think in 99% of the game, you will almost always have Frenzy up, and I don't think that'll be a big deal. And I just want to throw in, I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but you can proc Frenzy without holding the weapon out. So if you're just running around with Sunshot, for example, and you're in combat for 12 seconds, you will proc Frenzy on the Mountaintop without having it out ever. So I think there'll be no issue having it ready whenever you need. And if you do get into a situation where you're just shooting the Mountaintop over and over again, obviously that reload speed will be very handy. So overall, I would always go for Frenzy over Whirlpool. But in the context of using this as a swap weapon, there is an interesting debate of what right column perk you should actually use. And I don't think it's either of these two. And that's because if you pair this with something like the Edge Transit, you proc bait and switch, you'll probably only have to shoot Mountaintop 3, maybe 4 times per damage phase, which is where the third damage perk of Recombination comes into play. With Recombination, getting elemental final blows will give you a stack up to times 10. Every stack will be 10%, so a total of 100% double damage for your next shot. And once we can enhance these perks, it will come down to 12.5% per stack up to times 8 for the same total of 100, which makes a hit for 133,000 on Carl. And why this is so interesting for swaps and why I think it's a lot better is because if you're only shooting Mountaintop 3 or 4 times, Well, if you do the math, it'll take 7 shots for Frenzy or Whirlpool to catch up to Recombination. So if you're shooting 6 or less times per damage phase, Recombination would be a higher total damage output than Frenzy or Whirlpool, which I think will be the case most of the time. And not to mention that Recombination is just a way better all-around Journal Plate perk. I love pairing Recombination weapons with things like the Sunshot or Graviton Lance or really good ad clear builds, because you'll just always have Recombination times 10 whenever you need it. And comparing the damage to that of the Heritage and the Succession, they both hit for around 110,000, while the Mountaintop was hitting for over 133,000. So the Mountaintop hits harder than both of those. Not quite as hard as a Hone Edge times 4 shot, but not that far behind. And the cool thing about the Mountaintop is it's kind of a hybrid sniper and shotgun at the same time. With the greatly lowered self-damage, you can really use this up close and personal and use it like a shotgun. You can use it like a sniper. The travel time is very quick on the actual missile itself. So yeah, it's just like the best of both worlds. And pairing that with the auto-loading holster is just a perfect combo. And even if you only get like 2 elemental final blows before you have to shoot the GL, that's already 20. And once it's enhanced, that'll be 25%. Already way higher than that of Frenzy or Whirlpool. So even if you don't get the full 100% buff, once you have 1 to 2 kills, it's already outdoing the other buffs. So just recapping the auto-loading and recombination role, I think it's one of the best kinetic specials to pair with things like Sunshot and Graviton Lance. Great for general play. The access to that really high damage burst, auto-loading makes it a perfect combo. You can put it away, go back to using the Sunshot, pull it out when you need to, and have another high burst ready to go. And comparing it to the other recombination specials in the game, it not only hits harder, but it's more versatile, being able to use up close, middle range, and long range. And finally, for DPS, in most situations, I think you'll find that recombination is just better because you won't find yourself shooting more than 7 times per damage phase. Now, there will be situations where you run out of heavy, or you run out of your sniper ammo, whatever it is, and you just have to shoot off Mountaintop over and over again, and at that point, Frenzy would be better. So if you have time and you confirm this a lot, I think it's worth getting both roles, auto-loading Frenzy and auto-loading Recombination. But if you're just looking for one role, you know, just give me one role and that's it, don't want to farm anymore, I think auto-loading Recombination is definitely the way to go. Anyways, that's gonna be it for the video. Might be a little bit of gameplay left. Like usual, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.